park for this Manufacturers' Cup, the EBC MCN Superstock Manufacturers' Cup. And it's a great day for sport. There's a big crowd here to see these two 8-lap legs. On an aggregate of the two races, we're going to see the winner in this Manufacturers' Cup. And the weather is fine, the track is in superb condition, and the aggregate of these two races, they're going to take the scores on a motocross scoring system. That is 20, 17, 15, and then 10 down to 1. And it is the manufacturer's prize fund. There is £3,000 has been put together by the big four who are here for a showdown today. That is Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda and Kawasaki, who are going to battle it out. They've been lured here today by the BBC cameras, and there are going to be 30 extremely talented riders on this grid. My co-commentator today with me in the box is Mick Grant, none other than Mick Grant, the man who did a lot of development work on the Works Honda, who's raced in Grand Prix, TT Hero, etc. So Mick, welcome to you, and I'll join you just in a second. We'll just go through the grid. Phil Mellor, he is the man, number 10, on the Suzuki, who lapped under the lap record in practice, and he's going to be on the inside at the front. In second place, Gary Knoll from Frimley, who is also he's on the Yamaha, sorry, in second place. In third place is the championship leader, Keith Hewen, and he's on another Yamaha. And then in fourth place is Roger Hurst, who had trouble getting away from here on the warming up lap, but I can see him making his way through there on the inside. Then we've got, after Hurst, it was Trevor Nation, another Yamaha runner, and then Darren Dixon on the first of the Kawasaki's, and then in seventh position, the first of the Hondas, Brian Morrison. So, Mick Grant, it looks like we've got 20 seconds before we start. These machines are Superstocks. What's the difference between them and a Grand Prix machine, quickly?
These machines are almost standard road bikes with some minor modifications to put them into racing class. They will give around about 100-105 horsepower.
Well, a tremendous start, and it looks like one of the Yamahas at the front. I'm not quite sure. It could have been Hewen, number 16, coming through. Just looking at the back of the field and some of the Kawasaki's there as they go out through Charlie's Bend, and it's our long shot down Park Straight. And there's a great snake of these Superstock bikes, 750 cc's, four-stroke machines, but they're on racing tyres because you're allowed to have them. And it is, in fact, Hewen. Right behind him is Mellor. Mez Mellor to his mates, but he's in second place for Suzuki. And in third place, we'll try and pick him out for you in a moment. Mick.
Phil there is looking very tight on the first part of Chris Curve there. Phil actually set a lap record in practice with Keith Hewen very close to him, nothing much to separate them on the times.
And in fact, in third place, it's number 19, there's Roger Hurst, or Hursty, and he's a great British hope. He's been going extremely well in these Superstock rounds. And in fourth position, it looks like number 5, Trevor Nation, who in fact broke his collarbone earlier in the season, I believe at Knock Hill. And there, they're pulling wheelies, Keith Hewen, as he brings up that front wheel, as he heads towards Hall Bend, chased by this gaggle of Superstock bikes in the Manufacturers' Cup for this big £3,000 purse.
They'll take about 2 laps to get the tyres really warm, Tony, so they're all going quite cautious at the minute.
Well, this is a great start from Hewen because he's only got one win in this championship so far, and he's looking to get ahead of the rest of these and win this Manufacturers' Cup for Yamaha, but he's also out to prove that he can win races from the front and not just by consistent riding as he has done so far this season.
Keith's had a bit of a steady season really, but then you say he has been consistent, and up to press the total tally of wins is just the one, and I know he feels very firm about the fact that he's going to get in stuck in and get some more wins under his belt.
And there's Mellor, he's taken the lead, going into that 90-degree. No, Hewen's not having any of that, he's gone back into the lead. So there's going to be a battle royal on between Yamaha and Suzuki. There is Mellor looking on the inside as they're going down towards the gooseneck. Tremendous riding.
I'm quite surprised at Phil going so early, but he's on the bike and not me.
In fourth place, looks like Gary Knoll, the 26-year-old from Frimley in Surrey. But I did notice when I was watching that Yamaha go up the hill down Parkway Straight that the way he was snaking with that power.
It's quite interesting that there's only the Suzuki that's on Michelin tyres. The rest are actually on Dunlop. But both Dunlop and Michelin are using radials.
Well, there they go. They're all pulling wheelies up there. And that is taken in 3rd gear, pulling 4th gear. And now they're at the slowest part of the track. And that is down at Hairpin Corner, which, according to Steve Chambers, who's a local rider on number 6, says you've got to take it in 1st gear, so that's about 10 miles per hour. He said anything more than that and you could drop the machine.
I think that now Phil Miller's hit the front, he's shown his hand and he's really got to get stuck in and try and make a bit of a break. But unfortunately, these machines are so well matched that it's almost down to the riding ability of each individual rider.
Well, we're looking at Charlie's Bend as they exit there. Something like 120 miles per hour, and they're getting down onto the Park straightaway and up over the crest into Park. They're getting about 150 miles per hour there, and Phil Mellor from Huddersfield, who's 31 years of age, I don't think I've ever seen him ride quite this well.
He's riding absolutely fantastically this year, and I was watching him at Thruxton last weekend, and he was in a class of his own, and he would appear to be showing the same today. To pull maybe sort of 70 or 80 yards in 2.5 laps in this class of competition is quite incredible.
Phil Mellor just negotiating that new hairpin which they've put in at the bottom of the gooseneck to slow these machines down. As you see them disappearing from our sight, there they're coming into our sight towards the mountain. Now, you've ridden the mountain many times before. It's quite a dangerous section, I think. It is. It's taken in 2nd gear, and what you must try to do as you approach the mountain, because the bike goes light and the front wheel comes up, is getting a straight line at the bottom of the hill. And obviously people like Phil Mellor and Keith Ewan have done it many times, and they're fairly well organised at it. But you watch youngsters taking it, and it's quite frightening. Well, you can see that Hewen there in 2nd place is not letting go. And then we've got Hurst in 3rd place. And in 4th place is number 11, Gary Knoll from Crimley and Surrey on another Yamaha. We'll try and find out for you in a minute. The Kawasaki, Darren Dixon on number 38 is in 6th place at the moment. And we'll try and see where the Hondas are, because these VFR Hondas 350s have got the 360-degree crankshaft, so they should be coming into the figuring soon, I'd have thought, Mick. That's right. I see there again. Gary Knowles there in just behind that leading bunch. He's quite a new rider to Superstock, and he's, it's quite, after riding 2-stroke machines of the lighter classes, it's quite a big jump to get up here, and he's one of the riders, Gary Knowles, that's doing quite well at it, adapting. I'm talking to Rex White, the man from Suzuki, and he said that the good riders are the ones that can go from 2-stroke machines, and certainly Mellor, who you're looking at in the lead now, can do that, and onto a 4-stroke machine, which is, after all, very much based on a road-going bike, yet with slick tyres and special suspension, but it takes a lot longer to stop that machine, and of course you can't crank it over quite the same as a thoroughbred 2-stroke. Phil's getting a lot of pressure now, and he's just got to keep his head. And that was a tremendously long and over-ambitious wheelie, I would have said, by Hursty there, number 19. But Mellor's still hanging on, so he's riding really well. And this, of course, is the beauty of Superstock. And this is why the manufacturers are here today, all the big 4 Japanese manufacturers, to say who's the best. Mellor at the moment on the Suzuki is saying he is, but the others are not going to let him go. So Gary Knoll, the man who pulled the big wheelie there, up into 2nd place. Hewen in 3rd place. 4th place is Hurst. Phil made a mistake there, and Knoll came right under him, and I think that maybe now Mez has got some work to do to catch back up to Gary Knoll. Right, I see that. Gary Knoll, he's pulled out something like about 5 machine lengths there, and Phil Mellor noticeably using up all the track. Knoll, of course, it shouldn't be forgotten, had his best result in the Superstock Championship last week at Thruxton, finishing 2nd, so he's got the bit between the teeth. The performance now from Gary Knoll is quite incredible. Look, he's got maybe another 70 or 80 yards advantage. And we can see a red flag down on the start line. They've finished 4 laps. There it is, the red flag. That means they're going to stop the race. There's obviously been an incident somewhere. And it's Mark Phillips, number 1. We're not sure exactly what's happened. And there he is down by the side of the track. Let's hope he's okay. And it seems that there's some oil on the track out on the far side. Either that or the crossed flags, that is the yellow, which is the danger flag, and of course the red and yellow flag crossed like that mean showing the rest of the riders that they've got to stop when they get back to the grid. So let's hope it won't be too long. But Mark Phillips, of course, he could have received some sort of injuries. Let's hope he hasn't, and let's hope he can get back into this race. But Mark Phillips is a local man from Eagle in Lincoln, and there's the ambulance. They'll be checking up on him, obviously. He has just recovered from a broken elbow and a broken collarbone earlier in this season. And in fact, his elbow was plated. So he's, like a lot of these motorcycle riders, they're always in the wars, Mick. And I remember that you broke your pelvis once, and you were still determined to carry on riding about 2 weeks later. Brave men, or mad?
It's a living, and I think you must go and do it. I feel sorry in actual fact that he's crashed, because it's a one-off ride that he's having on the Skull Bandit Heron Suzuki, and I was speaking to him earlier this morning. I was really looking forward to it. Last week at Thruxton he rode the Honda, so at the minute he's doing the rounds on various motorcycles.
That's right, he was riding bike number 7, the Honda, at Thruxton last week, but he was of course the Formula 1 champion last year. And Mark Phillips, better known as the captain, let's wish him good luck. Because just talking about the injuries, just this morning there were in fact some of the drivers knocking their knees and things. So we will see what the situation is. The bikes have reformed on the grid, and hoping that we'll have a restart soon.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Any kind of motorsport that you have seems to involve crashes. He's regained consciousness, and the race has just started again. Here's Tony Jardine.
And the race has indeed been restarted, Des, and Keith Ewan has gone into the lead of where they finished off. The positions at the end of 4 laps when the race was stopped is from where they restarted this event, and it's going to be the aggregate of these 2 parts of this first leg. We've still got a second leg, 8-lap leg to come later on, and Keith Ewan on the Yamaha, the series leader of Superstocks, has gone into an immediate lead, and there behind him is Roger Hurst, a man who's been driving extremely well, and in 3rd place is number 10, Phil Mellor. There's confirmation of how they finished after 4 laps. It was Mellor, Gary Knoll in 2nd place, Keith Ewan 3rd place, in 4th place was Hurst, 5th was Trevor Nation, and 6th was Darren Dixon, the first of the Kawasaki riders. And just to update you as to the positions relative to the Manufacturers' Cup, and they're all racing for this £3,000 prize purse, it is Suzuki first after the 4 laps, Yamaha, Kawasaki was in 6th place after the 4 laps, and then in 8th place was Brian Morrison on the Honda. That's the Scotsman who has been driving that VFR Honda and driving it very well indeed. Mick Grant is with me in the commentary box as we watch Roger Hurst make a little bit of a mistake. Mick, the second part of this restarted race, and it looks like Hurst is in the front there.
Yes, I think obviously with it being a much shorter race now, only 4 laps, if Roger just hangs on where he is and doesn't panic, it'll be very hard for the people behind him to make any difference, any sort of advantage on him.
And there's good news, of course, from the track centre here, that Mark Phillips on bike number 1, who went off in the first 4 laps, and that was the reason for the stoppage, is A-OK, and that's fantastic news, Mick. I'm sure you're relieved as well.
That's right, because in fact where Mark fell off, it wouldn't be the best of places, and he's come off quite lucky at that. Right,
in this restarted race, the second part of this first leg, we've got Roger Hurst in the lead at the moment, and he's on the Yamaha. In 2nd place is Keith Ewan, number 16, on another Yamaha. In 3rd place is number 10 at the moment, Phil Mellor, Mez Mellor on a Suzuki. And in 4th place is number 47, which is Jeff Fowler, the man who tested all these 4 machines for Motorcycling News and couldn't find much difference between them, Mick.
No, in actual fact, the machines, all the top Japanese machines, are very, very close. As I said earlier, it really was up to the rider on the day who was sort of on form. And Phil Mellor, who is currently in 3rd position on aggregate, could just be okay. Oops, Phil Miller lost it then. He had a fairly big slide at the back end.
Well, he seems to have been pushing a little bit hard today. That's a couple of times I've seen his rear wheel stepping out of line. But you're just looking at Hewen there and Mellor behind him as they go into the Mansfield corner and chicane at the bottom of that 1-in-3 hill. A great deal of braking and weight on the brakes, I would think, as they plunge down that section, Mick.
It's a very nasty little chicane. It's completely out of character with the circuit, and the last meeting here, Phil Mellor actually crashed in that place, so I'm sure every time he comes through it, he won't be relishing that prospect.
And just looking there, Hurst was really pushing it. He was very, very close on the inside there through Hall Bends. His knee almost clipping that bank. And a couple of riders have done that today. And he's also pulling great wheelies up over the mountain, anxiously looking over his shoulder to see where those 2nd and 3rd place men are. But he's 6th overall in the Superstock Championship. And he had 1 win this year at Snetterton, although he too, Hursty there, has had a couple of tumbles as well.
Yeah, I think Roger's one of these guys who is either up front or crashing, and I think in this sort of championship, you've got to be there at every race to make it towards the end of the championship as champion. But a very, very exciting rider and gaining experience all the time.
Oh, while we're looking at Hurst, I'm also impressed so far by the ride of Jeff Fowler from Blackburn, 26-year-old, who's normally an endurance rider, and of course has done a lot of work testing these machines and will race later on in the TZR Challenge. But that's a great position for him. And in 5th place is number 5 at the moment, and that's Trevor Nation. Hurst is on his last lap, and he has led for the 3 of these last 4 laps. So we're going to leave it to the statisticians to work out exactly who's won the aggregate of the first leg. But certainly Hurst will be looking great. If he can get to that checkered flag, he'll be looking very good indeed for the 2nd leg of this Manufacturers' Cup. Mick?
Yes, in actual fact, I think Phil Mellor could just be in there for the overall aggregate, leading after the first leg, now line 2nd, I beg your pardon, 3rd. I think it'll actually be done on times, and he could be in a very good position to win it.
And there's Hurst. He's looking again, and he's trying to get as far ahead as he can. And there he is, he's taken the checkered flag. And looks like Keith Hewen in 2nd place on that 2nd part. And 3rd was Phil Mellor. 4th was Jeff Fowler. And 5th was number 5, Trevor Nation. And number 6, Steve Chambers, the man who's the local man. He was in 6th position, local man from Lincoln. So that's Hurst, Hewen, Mellor, Fowler, Nation, and then Chambers in 6th place. And we'll have to wait to see what the aggregate of these 2 parts of this first leg, because there was a crash in the first, but fortunately Mark Phillips is A-OK.
We've got to spot more bike racing for you in due course. Now, you'll have noticed just now that we're all set for that race to get underway.
Yes, we have indeed, Des, and thank you very much. It's the Yamaha SBS TZR 250 Challenge, 6 laps this time of the Cadwell Park 2.17-mile circuit. They are on the warm-up lap now, so they're going to come back to the grid and stop for something like about 30 seconds. This race is another restarted race, and they could do with super glue certainly on their tyres to keep them on board. And we lost something like about 8 bikes, that's why it's going to be restarted. But there are going to be 24 riders on this grid, and they're all on identical 125-mile-per-hour TZR Yamaha production machines. It's the closest of the one-make formula. It's basically the new Pro-Am, following the success of the RD 350s from 1981 and 84. Now, the series organizer Bruce Cox says that they're all on the same street bike, so we're bound to see some action. And indeed we have in the first 2 laps that were seen earlier on. And in fact, at Snetterton in mid-season in this championship, there were 8 different leaders in 8 laps, and 4 of them crashed out in quick succession. So we're hoping for close and exciting racing in the 6 laps of this 250 challenge, but we're also hoping that no one's going to fall off. And with me in the commentary box is Mick Grant, our expert and of course very famous rider in his own. I suppose you'd have liked these to be around when you started off, Mick.
It'd have been quite good fun, Tony. I must admit, looking back at my career now, I don't think I particularly want to be out there at the minute. The close-in, the racing, as you said, is very, very close, and all the machines are exactly the same. In fact, about 2 meetings ago, one chap was caught cheating. He'd been playing about with the engine, of course they'd slung him out the championship. But normally speaking, Rot Skivier, who was an ex-125 British champion, polices the whole affair, and he does a very good job of it, and the bikes are pretty well standard.
Right, the man on pole position there, just testing his brakes, is number 12. That's the championship leader, Gary Thrush, and you can see him nearest to us. And then just alongside him is Mike Edwards on bike number 19. He was leading the first aborted race, and that's bike number 19. Bike number 14 is Ian Wareham, also well up in the championship. And bike number 4 on the outside of the front row as they're away, and it looks like a great start from Gary Thrush. Can he get through that first part into Coppice? They should be into about 4th gear there and well up to about 100 miles an hour. Yeah, Thrush has got it. Thrush has got through onto the inside, and he's through Charlie's Bend. Should be in about 4th gear now. On the exit and along onto Park Straight. That was a very exciting but yet controlled start, Mick.
In fact, as they went away from the line, they were packed as close as I've ever seen anything, and I can't think of any reason at all why I would have wanted to be in the middle of that lot, I'll tell you.
And looks like in 2nd place is Andy Muggleton. That's bike number 3. Can't quite see that, bike number 3. And number 19, looks like he was in 3rd place, and that's Mike Edwards, who led the early part. So they're as close as that. There's not a lot between those TZR 250s.
The racing's going to be close all the way through, but because they are on road tyres, and in fact they're all on Dunlop road tyres, unlike racing slicks that get better as the race goes on, these actually start quite good and get worse. So really the dodgy moments start coming normally towards the end of the race when the tyres get very, very soft and the bike wobbles about quite a bit.
Right, well, I did him a disservice. It's actually number 4, Darren Dixon, who's up into 2nd place, as you're watching Wareham there in 4th position in the red leathers as they go through Hall Bends. There's Gary Thrush, the championship leader, the man who said that he wanted to stay upright today and get in the points for his sponsor, and he's doing that at the moment.
I think in actual fact, Tony, the safest place to stay upright would actually be at the front, so he's never got the right idea.
I agree there, Mick, that's quite right. So it's 12, 4, 19 and 14. 19 in 3rd place there, and Mike Edwards from Wigan in Lancashire, the 21-year-old who's actually 3rd in the championship, and a little snake on from the rear wheel there of number 12, Gary Thrush.
Mike Edwards actually just stuck into 2nd place, and the way he went in the first race that was rerun, I'll just keep an eye on him.
Right, Mike Edwards, that new 2nd place man who's 3rd in the championship. He's got 42 points. He's a protege of former Works Yamaha rider Charlie Williams, and Charlie Williams even bought this TZR 250 for him, so that was quite a nice present.
In fact, one of the things about the championship is every machine in it is actually owned and sponsored by a motorcycle dealer. It's quite a novel idea.
Well, a bit on the specification of these bikes. They are twin-cylinder liquid-cooled 2-stroked, and of course they're based on the old formula from a few seasons back.
In fact, they're directly a result of the TZ Yamaha, which has been racing for quite a long, long time. These machines give about 45 horsepower, which is about the same as a small family car. But when you consider how light they are, that's quite a lot of performance.
And there they go, that's Gary Thrush pulling a wheelie there up over the mountain. And through Hall Bends, there's a great gaggle of those riders. And into the hairpin.
Because most of the riders in other classes ride on slicks, I think one of the reasons they crash so much is that they just aren't used to the tyres being so wobbly under racing conditions. And in fact, there's quite a big prize. At the end of the championship series, Yamaha do provide a bike for the 1988 season for them to actually go up a class into Superstock.
Right, you're looking 14 there. It's Ian Wareham, man who's in 3rd place. And of course in the championship he's in 4th position, so he'll be happy with this so far. But the man who's gone up into 2nd place at the moment, bike number 4, is Darren Dixon from Folkestone. And that is the 24-year-old. He's 5th in the championship. And of course we saw him earlier on. He was the highest placed Kawasaki rider. There he is, number 4, looking at the inside. Darren Dixon. My goodness me, he's just taken the lead, but that was a little bit hairy, Mick.
It was a little bit naughty. He put Gary Thrush on the out shoulder there.
Well, that's what the TZR 250s are all about, and it looks like these two are going to have at it hammer and tongs. By no means certain, of course, that they'll be in the same position in 4 laps' time when we get to the end of this 6-lap race. Darren Dixon, highest placed Kawasaki rider in this Superstocks Manufacturers Cup that we saw early on. Now, what's the difference for him between riding the big 4-stroke machine and this little 2-stroke 250?
You couldn't have a bigger difference in the world. These machines are very, very light, with very, very moderate power. Squelchy tyres that are sort of squirming all over the place, as against the Superstocker, which, although it's production-based, has got quite a few racing parts on it, and actually handles more like a racing machine.
A fine shot there of Dixon as he goes through past the barn. And he's crouching down over the tank now, getting his helmet well below that fairing as they come past the start-finish line. And they're just finishing the 3rd lap there. So there's confirmation after 3 laps. 1st place, Darren Dixon. In 2nd place, number 12, is Gary Thrush. In 3rd place, Ian Wareham. In 4th place is Mike Edwards. And in 5th place is Gregory. Andrew Gregory, of course, number 16, who's 12th in the championship. He's had a 3rd and a 9th place. He was 3rd at Cadwell, and he survived that big 8-lap crash. Now, there's another rider who's come off there. He's perfectly okay. That was number 1. That's Maudsley. That was Kevin Maudsley, the man from Blackpool, who won at Thruxton last week. Now, they did say about him that Maudsley either wins or he crashes. And he's obviously a very disappointed man.
I think Kevin must have had a bad start, and obviously when machines are identical in performance as these are, it's very, very difficult to get to the front, and I rather suspect he was chased him to try and get up there.
Well, our lap charter Paul Simmons, who's actually racing in the 350 event later on this afternoon, Paul, tells me that number 1 Maudsley crashed at the barn, and that's a very awkward corner, because as you exited, of course, there are the steps of the barn.
That's correct, and it's a wee bit adverse, and today the grip will be quite good at barn corner, but normally if it's a wee bit damp it gets very, very greasy.
And this is where he went, and you can see the houses, and down there towards the edge of that barn, and there are some tyre marks down there, so that's possibly where we lost Kevin Maudsley, bike number 1, and they're alongside each other going into Coppice, and that'll be at about 105 miles an hour flat out in 5th gear. And Gary Thrush has got through, he's into the lead, and in 2nd place now, displaced, Darren Dixon.
Because the bikes are equal on power, passing has either got to be done on the brakes, or as he actually did in that particular instance by slipstreaming, which is staying immediately behind the machine in front, and once you get the speed up, because of the lack of wind resistance, you whip past at the last minute.
Right, there's Gary Thrush looking on the outside, and just a little bit of a wobbly on there. They are inches apart, and this is what TZR 250 is all about. Thrush is going on the outside there again. Dixon, sorry, on the outside. They're just about touching. My goodness me, how do they get away with that? That was certainly close riding. And then pulling in right behind them is number 19, Mike Edwards from Wigan. He's having a go now. He can't get through there. Well, that you can't get much closer, Mick.
In fact, at the chicane, it's quite a difficult place to pass out, and I'm quite surprised he went around the outside, because obviously the two would just shut him out.
Well, here we come back up to the notorious mountain section. It's very tight there, and in fact 3rd gear, then snatching 4th gear. And it looks like Darren Dixon has pulled a couple of lengths away there from Thrush, but I'm sure he'll still pull up. And then it's Ian Wareham in 4th place. Ian Wareham, I just saw his red leathers in the background there.
Darren Dixon's been quite clever, really, in that all the passing moves he's made have been up the inside, and that's where Gary Thrush has missed out, really.
After 5 laps, Darren Dixon there ahead on bike number 4. 2nd place, Gary Thrush, bike number 12. 3rd place is Mike Edwards. 4th place, Ian Wareham. 5th place is Andrew Gregory, and then Johnny Towers, number 32, coming into the equation. But we're on our last lap, so it's now or never for some of them, and I'm sure they're going to have a real crack at it. So let's watch them closely. Mick, there's the leader. He's riding well at the moment.
Yes, I think he should be able to just about hang on to it, but the way these things stop...
Oh, he's off on the grass now, and that's Darren Dixon. That was a massive big wobbly. I didn't think they had that much power. Is that because the tyres are so soft and they're
well,
road
of course,
tyres?
now the tyres are actually getting very warm and very wobbly. It was lucky to stay on there. Maybe he should take up motocross.
And there we are into the mountain. There he is, Darren Dixon, number 4. And he's going through Hall Bends now. And number 19 is in 2nd place, Mike Edwards. Those will be useful points for him to add to his 42. Darren Dixon having a nervous look over his shoulder, just seeing where number 19, Edwards, is going to go and try and slipstream for that flag. In 3rd place, Gary Thrush. And there it is. He's taken it, Darren Dixon, on the Yamaha in the TZR 250 Challenge. A great win for him. There he is, Darren Dixon. A superb win for him. And in 2nd place, number 19, and that was Mike Edwards from Wigan in Lancashire. 3rd place was Gary Thrush. 4th place, Wareham. 5th place, Gregory. And 6th place, Johnny Towers. A great event.